Vote for me so we can kick every dirty Muslim out of Texas. I don't fear the groomers. I don't fear the pedophiles. I don't fear the corrupt politicians. And I definitely do not fear the dirty Muslims.
Valentina is just a bigot, plain and simple. And you can tell by looking at her that her IQ hovers around room temperature.
Hello there. What you are about to hear is Valentina Gomez, a Colombian-American far-right political activist whose parents allegedly entered the United States through illegal means. She advances a strong claim that Sharia courts and Muslims are the central problem faced by both the United States and Britain. In making this argument, she presents herself as the sort of person who appears perfectly normal at first, only to reveal herself as the unexpectedly and dangerously unhinged killer in a horror film. After stating her case and supporting it with insults and unnecessary shouting, she claims she was begged to appear on the program. Piers Morgan, the host, is obliged to remind her that the production team simply sent a single email to which she replied yes. Let's watch this video and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Let us watch her provide what sounds like a compelling reason to tell one's children never to take drugs. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section.
Now, on the question of Sharia courts, certainly they should not supersede the actual laws of the country. If a Muslim community wants to settle its own disputes using religious law consensually, they should be allowed to do that if they want to. There are certain things with Jewish law as well and many others. But ultimately, the law of the country is what should reign supreme. And if there are people who want to have the result, nobody should be able to impose that court in lieu of the actual law taking place and impose that on somebody else. So it's a matter of what the jurisdiction is of these courts. They should never supersede existing law, and I don't think that they do. I think these are completely consensual courts that people enter to resolve their religious disputes if they all parties agree that this is how they want to resolve their issues.
Valentina Gomez.
Sharia courts have no place in England. Sharia courts have no place in Christian nations. That's why you guys have 56 Muslim nations. And I fully support and love what President Trump and Pete Hegseth are doing. We need to bomb more narco-terrorism into oblivion. That's the reality. You defend terrorists because you're probably a little terrorist yourself as well. That's the reality.
Why would you say that?
Why would I say what?
Why do you use language like that? Why do you brand a fellow panelist who's actually a respected journalist a terrorist?
Someone who is defending terrorists? Someone who is defending terrorism? Bringing drugs into the United States?
He hasn't defended terrorism. Only one, just to be clear, Valentina Gomez, I've had 3 reasonable members of this panel offering reasonable arguments.
Reasonable.
All I've heard from you so far is dumb bigotry, accusations of terrorism against people who are just perfectly ordinary journalists. There's something wrong with you. Why do you do this?
Sounds like you during COVID, Piers. You were vilifying, shaming, and trying to destroy people for not wanting to take the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
You tried to destroy.
And you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong.
Exactly, you're wrong, and you still are wrong today.
Well, you don't become less wrong. I've admitted I was wrong. I've apologized. What I've not seen from you, is any admission of being wrong or an apology for the disgusting way you talk about people. Why do you do it?
I apologize for nothing. My statements and my actions have endured the test of time. And Piers, since you cut me off, let me finish. You've been on national television for 20 years, and during that entire time, England has only gotten more Muslim. For 20 years,
when were you last in England?
To even say faggot or to even call out the rapist Muslims. Piers, you're not uncensored. The truth is, you have been complicit with the rape of England into its submission. It's not only on Keir Starmer, it's also on you, on the police and the courts that have covered up for their crimes. Absolutely. And I'll say what everybody else is thinking. England is better off without all the Muslims. And that goes the same way to the United States. We can solve all of our problems if these Muslims are sent back to their Sharia nations, because they're not here to assimilate.
You think there would be no problem Muslims, you think you'd have no, you think you'd have no, just to be clear, just to be clear, I'll tell you what, you finish. You finish. You said what you want to say. You said what you want to say. Yeah, you see, this has been my suspicion. Because the last time you were here, you were at a Tommy Robinson march. And this has been my problem with Tommy Robinson.
Oh, yes.
No, yeah, not that Tommy Robinson wasn't right to expose the grooming gangs. He was. The problem is that he and many of his followers, like you, actually hate Muslims. You're actual genuine Islamophobes. You would like them all removed
Muslims,
from the
they
country.
belong in their Muslim nations. That's the thing. They're just obsessed with coming to Christian nations, burning our flag, chanting death to America, killing our American soldiers. So yes, they belong in their Muslim nations. Piers, let me finish what I said. These Muslims are not here to assimilate to the American or the British way of life.
Actually, many Muslims assimilate perfectly well.
They only contribute to rape statistics and terrorist attacks.
Really? And you don't think any white Christians commit any crime in the UK or US?
They do, and we deal with them.
Well, we do the same with Muslims who commit crimes.
No, you don't.
Oh,
no,
yes,
you
we
don't,
do.
Piers. That's why you have a huge Pakistani, a Muslim,
That was a disgusting scandal. Yeah, you know what? You know what? On that point, you're absolutely right. The British Pakistani grooming scandal, abuse scandal.
They're not British.
Well, you can use any terminology you like. I will use mine, which is the correct terminology. That scandal was disgusting. It was actually exposed by a journalist who I knew on the Times, who did some extraordinary work. Tommy Robinson amplified it, but it was exposed by a journalist on the Times newspaper.
Because of Tommy Robinson,
and it was covered up in a disgraceful manner that shamed my country. Right? And I'm very happy to agree about that point. But it doesn't mean that every Muslim of the 5 million Muslims in my country are somehow complicit with those disgusting monsters. In the same way that when a white Christian commits a heinous crime, I don't assume that every white Christian is the same. Why would you?
Piers, you can take the Muslim out of a terrorist nation, but you cannot take the terrorism out of a Muslim. And give me one example of a Christian committing a terrorist attack right now.
Well,
against Muslims.
Let me ask you then: when the UK and the United States illegally invaded Iraq in 2003, I waged a campaign against that. So, what would you say about that illegal invasion of a Muslim country?
Muslims are killing Christians in Nigeria, Piers.
Right. So I didn't ask you about Nigeria. I asked you about Iraq.
Iraq? Well, repeat your question again, please.
Do you agree that we illegally invaded Iraq in 2003?
I don't think she's right enough to understand your question, Piers.
I don't think she does. I don't think she wants to understand it. But in 2003, in my opinion, illegally invaded Iraq, a sovereign country. A million people died. It created ISIS, which then wreaked mayhem for 2 decades, and was a stain on my country and on the Prime Minister Tony Blair, who I think should have been held up in a court of law over what happened under my name and the name of the British people. But do you care about that? Do you care that 1 million people, including hundreds of thousands of Muslims, were killed in a war in Iraq, which in my opinion was fought on an illegal false pretext that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, which he didn't, it turned out?
Piers, in 2003, I was 4 years old, and I cannot change what happened back then.
No, I asked you for your opinion. I asked you for your opinion.
They can bomb every terrorist country they want. That's the reality.
Your intellect has not grown a year since then.
That the Taliban, ISIS,
you still think like a 4-year-old.
The Middle East. But then they're obsessed. Yes, I'm honest. And I am the American dream on steroids. I have worked my way to the top.
You're not the American dream, Valentina. You're not the American dream. You're the American nightmare.
Yes, I am.
You're somebody fomenting hatred towards an entire community in your country. And I don't understand why you need to do that.
They belong in their Muslim nations, Piers. That's the reality.
What's that?
They belong in their Muslim nations.
Really?
Piers. That's the reality.
So would you deport every single?
Okay. For the UK,
just to be clear, then you would deport. You would deport. Just to be clear, you would deport every Muslim from the US and the UK, would you?
Yes.
The debate we have just watched laid bare deep tensions over immigration, security, and free speech. A congressional candidate used highly charged language against Muslims as a group. Panel members responded with equal force, calling out words like bigoted and un-American. broad statements that paint an entire religion as the problem risk deepening division and ignoring law-abiding citizens. Yet ignoring genuine security gaps or cultural challenges also fails the public. The discussion showed how quickly a conversation can slide from data into personal attack. A responsible approach requires stronger border controls and proper screening, while still judging people by their actions rather than their faith. Rhetoric matters because it shapes public mood and policy. The exchanges tonight underline a wider challenge for Western democracies: how to protect citizens without abandoning the principle of equal treatment under the law. Finding that balance remains unfinished business.